right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahaha, Kodash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And this is going to be another walk and talk. I wanted to talk about Donald Trump's statement. So last night I was watching Prepper News, and he was going into a statement that Donald Trump made. Basically, Donald Trump said that Iran has activated sleeper cells inside of America, namely in California. Okay, and he claims that Iran wants to get revenge on America for what America did to Iran by bombing the west coast seas of California. And basically, out of Donald Trump's mouth, okay, he put the blame on the Biden administration for letting all the sleeper cell, for letting in all of the immigrants through the borders. And you know, we've been telling you people this, and you people just seem to not want to listen. Your presidents are all puppets. Okay? All of your presidents are puppets. They're doing what they are told by the so-called elites. Okay? Joe Biden did not let immigrants through the borders during his term in office of his own accord. He was told to do it by the so-called global elites who call themselves Rockefellers or Rothschilds. He was told to do it. Why? For the sole purpose of what's going on now. Because just like how Joe Biden is a puppet in a suit, being told what to do by his higher-ups, Donald Trump is a goddamn puppet, being told what to do by his higher-ups. Okay? Donald Trump is no more than a goddamn puppet, man. Is being told what to do by the so-called global elites who call themselves Rothschilds or Rockefellers. Okay? Donald Trump is just a puppet. So now, right, these immigrants, which a lot of these immigrants that came across the borders during Sleepy Joe's administration, and by the way, Donald Trump called Joe Biden Sleepy Joe, right? Where did he get that from? He got that from us because we started calling Joe Biden Sleepy Joe. So that proves that these various different social media platformers, as well as these different high-ranking officials in the government, that proves that they be watching us. Okay? That proves that they be watching us. But anyways, right? So during Sleepy Creepy Joe's administration term in office, right, he let immigrants through the borders under the orders of the Rockefellers, who call themselves global elites. He let these immigrants through the borders, and a lot of these immigrants that came through the borders, okay, some of them were our people, but a lot of them were military personnel from different nations, what you will call your sleeper cells today. Okay, now in that movie, Leave the World Behind, right? There was a scene where this guy, when he was driving his truck, right? There was a plane that was flying through the sky. He thought it was red gas that was being sprayed, but it was actually many little many little how do you say it, pamphlets. And basically on the pamphlet it said in I believe in East Indian language, it said "Death to America," something along them terms, right? And basically, it was indicating that America was under attack by the East Indians. Because when you carefully observe the movie Leave the World Behind, it was all about America being under a cyber attack. No, that's why the Tesla cars were driving on their own, crashing into one another, creating blockades. You know, that's why there were power outages. The electricity would go out, then the electricity would come back on. You know, people were losing connection to cable, internet. They weren't able to make phone calls. So the borders were purposely left open during Joe Biden's administration in office, so these different military personnel of different nations could come into the Americas, could come into the United States of America. And not only was they let into the United States of America, right? These military personnel, they were given decent homes, a decent place to stay, and the government paid for them. The government paid for these places. So look, all this shit is being set up, man. And yet, yes, the U.S. government did pay for these different hotels and these expensive places for these military personnel of different countries who crossed the borders that came over here for them to stay until the time of their activation. And I bet you any amount of money, all of them years, when people thought that the borders were closed and everything was okay, them sleeper cells were over here training on how to ambush and attack you Americans. And when I say military personnel of different nations, I'm talking about military personnel that are not Americans. That means military personnel that could be Arabians, military personnel that are a part of the Arabian army, military personnel that are a part of the, military personnel that's a part of the East Indian Army, military personnel that are a part of the Chinese Army, what you would call your Gurkha troops, military personnel that are a part of the Russian Army. Okay? And you even had military personnel that was a part of the African Army that had crossed the borders. And all of them, when they crossed the borders to America, they were given decent hotels and decent apartments, which was paid for by the U.S. government for them to stay at until the time that they were activated. So now that Trump is in office, right, a couple of years later, what do we have? We have news going around that Iran has activated sleeper cells in the U.S. You see where all this is going? And they were talking about bombing the west coast seas of California. So E could be getting ready to stage a major T attack. Okay, he could be getting ready to stage a major terror attack. Upon its own soils of America, where they're going to put the blame on Iran so they can justify boots on the ground in Iran. That's why it is a blessing to know this truth, because like it says in 2nd Esdras, like it says in 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, for we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Now, when you go into that word Satan, right? That word Satan, no, when you go into that word, because we know that it's not talking about the spiritual demon Satan, okay? It's talking about, Satan there is talking about the so-called white man. Because when you go into the word Satan, it goes back to the Hebrew word shaitan, which means adversary. And when you go into the word adversary, the word adversary literally means to be adverse. And who is adverse? Who is adverse to the ways of the Heavenly Father? The so-called white man is, okay? The Heavenly Father told you not to eat pork. The so-called white man sells pork on the markets. The Heavenly Father told you not to eat anything in the oceans that do not have fins or scales. What do the so-called white men do? He takes lobsters, crabs, and shrimp out of the oceans and make it a delicacy in these different restaurants, and he sells them in your grocery stores. The Heavenly Father said that a transformer and a Mo is to be put to death. What do the so-called white men do? He gives them rights. The Heavenly Father said that if a man commit adultery with another man's wife, even the adulterer and the adulteress shall be put to death. What do the so-called white men do? He gives the adulteress rights. He gives them authority. He gives them liberty. Okay? He gave them feminism. He pretty much gave these women the rights to be whores, sluts, hoes, harlots. Okay? The Heavenly Father said that you're not supposed to eat your meat with blood in it. What do the so-called white men do? He'll go to a restaurant and they'll ask him, how do you want your steak? He'll say blue, steak tartare. Let it kiss the grill for 30 seconds, flip it over, let it kiss the grill for another 30 seconds, and it'll be okay, I'll eat it. Okay, stick a motherfucking fork in it and blood come out and shit. So The so-called white man is completely adverse to the ways of the Heavenly Father. Okay? The Heavenly Father said that on the day of the Sabbath, which is the day of rest, okay, you shall do no servile work therein. For he that doeth work on the Sabbath shall be put to death. Just like that guy in the book of Numbers who picked up sticks on the Sabbath and he got put to death for it. Okay, the Heavenly Father took his ass out. But what do the so-called white men do? There's certain businesses that he keeps open 24/7. Okay, which is where you get graveyard shift. You get graveyard shifts from. And if you don't know what a graveyard shift is, a graveyard shift is basically when you work overnight from like 10 p.m. to like 5 p.m. in the morning, or from 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the morning, excuse me, or you might work from 2 a.m. to like 10 a.m. in the morning. Okay, you know, so they have like 7-Eleven. There's some 7-Elevens that literally work all week, all month, and all year round. They never close. They're always open 24/7. It's called 24/7 jobs. The Lord said that on the Sabbath, no job is supposed to be open. There's not supposed to be any jobs open on the Sabbath. But nonetheless, the so-called white man so-called white man makes people work on the Sabbath. So Esau, the self-proclaimed white man, is completely adverse to the ways of the Heavenly Father. Okay? You know, the Lord commanded that no man should splice genes or mix seeds. What do the so-called white man do? He'll take the sperm of a tiger, which is the seed of a tiger, and then he'll take the sperm of a lion, or the seed of a lion, and he'll mix it together, and then he'll put it inside of a female tiger. He'll put the mixed seeds inside of a female tiger, and then out of the female tiger, what do you get? You get a liger, which is a lion mixed with a tiger. And that creature ends up dying at an early age. Why? Because its genetic code and DNA is all messed up. So the so-called white man is completely adverse to the Heavenly Father, and that's the point. But when you go to 2 Corinthians 2 verse 11, right? What do it say? It says that we are not ignorant of Satan's devices. Now, when you go into that word devices, right? Devices, it goes back to the Greek word naima, which means an evil scheme or purpose. So we're not ignorant of the evil schemes or purposes of Esau Edom. We're not ignorant of the devices of the self-proclaimed white man. We're not ignorant of his evil schemes or purposes. We see what he's doing because the heavenly Yahweh Shai in the book of Matthew, the 26th chapter, commanded us to watch as well as pray that ye fall not into temptation. The spirit itself is willing, but the flesh is weak. Okay? And also in Ezekiel, the third chapter in the 17th verse, okay? The Lord commanded us to be a watchman. So we're watching these Edomites. And we see exactly what they're doing. Hey, we're looking right at these motherfuckers, okay? They think they're slick. They think they're tiptoeing around us. Hey, look, watchmen never sleep. And I'm talking about spiritual sleeping, okay? The true watchmen of the Lord, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, never sleep. Okay? We're always watching. So there's no way you can tiptoe around us, especially when we have 360 vision. Okay? According to Ephesians 5 verse 15. See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Okay? So now you know what it means to walk circumspectly. You're walking with a 360 vision. You're looking all around you constantly, you know? Because 360 is where you get a full circle from. So you can understand, a full circle, you're looking in a full circle. So there's no way for these Edomites to tiptoe around us. So, you know, we've seen how Esau set this whole thing up, man. And now they're talking about how Iranian is activating sleeper cells inside of America, right? And you American people, you're gonna sit here and question, well, how did Iran get sleeper cells in well, have you been watching? Have you been paying attention? Okay? This damn devil done pulled a fast one on y'all. You know? They've been over here ever since Sleepy Joe Biden's administration. They've been over here, okay? And now that Mr. Trump is in office, and now that Iran has declared war on America, now they're talking about activating sleeper cells inside of America, right? The Wada Yahweh Shai for allowing me to cross the street safely. You know? But you know, we're watching and we're seeing exactly what the devil is doing. You know, so you know, and I speak as a man. I believe that Esau Edom is plotting a major terror attack upon America, where they're going to put the blame on Iran, and then inevitably they're going to try to tie it to other groups, such as the Hebrew Israelites. They're going to try to blame us, which will lead to the major persecution, in which this war will also lead to the mandatory implementation of the RFID chip, the micro chip, which is the MOTB. not your motherfucking friend. Okay. And fuck Chick-fil-A too. Funny ass acting motherfuckers. See, all this shit over here is going to be burned up, man. The Lord's going to destroy all this shit. But Jalapeno Ranch Club. Get the fuck out of here. But you know, I believe something major is about to go down. You know, just like how you always got to keep your eyes on the fox. Because one thing about a fox is sneaky. So, you know, I don't want this lesson to drag on any longer. With that, I'm going to say shalom. Is on to the next one.